Hello, welcome to Bloom and Grow Education. My name is Meredith. Today's lesson is a writing lesson. It is suitable for Year 5 students who are preparing for the Gifted and Talented test. And we're having another one of those lessons where I look at a student's writing sample and then I give you and them feedback about how they could have improved their work, but also what they've done well. So this was the stimulus that the child was provided with. They were asked to write for 25 minutes to this stimulus. And it's based on the stimulus that was provided to the GATE students at the GATE test last year. So it's not exactly the same picture, but it's very similar. Okay, let's have a look at what this child wrote. I have 25 minutes to write a story, more than enough time. The picture was of a house filled with sand. While I was trying to think of a story, I got trapped in my own thoughts. I felt like they were glued together. My hands were submerged in the sand and I could not hear anything. I tried to call for help, except my mouth was filled with sand. I guessed it was a prison of thoughts. I somehow started to sink into the boiling hot sand. I watched horridly while the other me was screaming for help. I've got it now. I was trying to make a story and my brain was giving me a story this whole time. By the time I had realized the other me was fully submerged in the sand, it was becoming quite full with sand, and the sand is going to escape through the windows. I was now starting to fill the desert with way too much sand. My eyes had finally opened and my page was of amazing story ideas. I felt kind of happy about my sandy thoughts. Okay, so we have got some lovely description in here. So I felt like I was glued together, submerged in the sand, a prison of thoughts. It was starting to sink into the boiling hot sand. There's lots of really good descriptive writing in here. And she's done a really great job of separating out her paragraphing into her so we've got introduction, problem, resolution, and conclusion. So she's done lots of really good things in this story. One of the things that she has attempted to do is to copy a story called Tsunami. So this is a story that I've already posted up onto my YouTube channel, and it was written by one of my last year students who was accepted into Perth Modern. And he did a brilliant job writing this story. So I gave this story to my students in advance of writing this Sandy House story, so that they could get an idea, have an example of writing more metaphorically or figuratively. So not writing about a physical house in the sand, but more this idea of a house, like a house in my mind, kind of a thing that's filled with sand. So what she's trying to do is copy that idea. And she's done a good job of trying to copy it. It's not quite at the level that the Tsunami story was, but she's given it a good crack. So let's go back in and have a look at some of the areas where she could improve. And one of the things she wrote at the bottom here is that she did it in only 17.5 minutes. So she had 7.5 more minutes to be able to add to this story. And what I feel like, I can't go in and correct every single thing, but what I would have really loved to see would have been a different ending. So she's sinking into the boiling hot sand. I'm watching horridly while the other me is screaming for help. The other me had been fully submerged in the sand. It was becoming so full. I was starting to fill the desert with my own sand. And so what has happened to this character is not actually very good. It's like she's drowned in all of this sand. There's all this sand that was gluing her together. And so it's almost better to have a bitter ending. So we want to try to, we can do a happily ever after. But one of the ways that we can show maturity in our writing is by making a a sadly ever after, or maybe sometimes a bittersweet ever after. So it would have been really great if she had ended this story by saying nothing had come out, that all of her thoughts were glued together and she couldn't get anything useful out. So let's have a look at how that might have worked. Bring it back to this line here. So we'll assume that we'll keep all of that and we'll bring it back to my eyes opened. All right, so I have tried to create something in my mind, which I'm not entirely sure has actually translated properly onto the page. So let's go back and edit it and see if I have achieved it. My eyes opened and I looked down at the page. There was nothing. Not a single word had cascaded onto the page like the tsunami of sand that had flowed through my mind. Not a single word has cascaded onto the page. Am I happy with that? So I'm thinking about that, like that sucking down that the character did, the way that the like she was sort of caught in that quicksand. Not a single word had, maybe cascaded isn't the right word, had struggled, maybe with that struggled onto the page. What about if we change this to, because the character, that's what the character had done, had struggled onto the page. Like, and then something like the sinking that the character did, like what about the tsunami? So I'm thinking about that sucking down. So I don't want to say like the suction of sand, but maybe if we said like the hurricane of sand that had, or we could say like this suction of sand that had suffocated my mind. And then you've got the alliteration there as well. There was so we've got single, struggled, suction, sand, suffocated, and also the S there. There was nothing, not a single word had struggled onto the page, like the suction of sand that had suffocated my mind. This word doesn't work now. Has struggled onto the page, maybe from the suction of sand that has suffocated my mind. All right, that's not perfect, but let's just move on. I could be here fiddling with it all day. I looked in the corner of my paper or my desk and saw one tiny speck of sand ventured in from the playground. I flicked it off just as the teacher called pencils down. And so that was me trying to sort of reconnect the figurative sand to like the physical sand, is like stupid sand. She like flicks it away, stupid sand, kind of an idea. Okay. Thank you very much for joining me for this lesson. I hope that you have learned about how sometimes we can use a bitter the bitter ending sometimes helps the flow of our story come more elegantly to completion. Thank you very much for joining me, and I would love it if you could please thank me in return by subscribing to my channel and liking this video, and I look forward to seeing you at the next lesson.